Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Getting In, a college coach conversation. I am a little flustered because I almost forgot to hit the record button so that you guys could be watching versus simply listening to it. So thank you for all who have joined us. So I am in the middle of a dilemma today, and you can't, if you're listening on the podcast, you can't see my shirt. And actually, if you're watching this video, you can't really either. So I'm just going to stand up really quickly so you can see my shirt. It says "Merci beaucoup." French. I studied French in high school. If you've listened to this show for a while, you know that I'm a massive proponent of taking foreign language and sticking with foreign language for all 4 years of high school. There's so many good reasons for doing this. In addition to the fact that it looks great, right? You're going above and beyond. Colleges love that. I think there's a lot of value in speaking more than one language. I, in fact, subbed out science for a second foreign language when I was a senior in high school. By the way, I don't recommend that. It wouldn't really fly today, but it was fine then. So I'm really passionate about that. And then many of you also know that I have a teenager in my house who is going through the college process, and he is thinking he's not going to take a foreign language in his senior year. And he has some really valid reasons for it. One of them is that it's his toughest class, and he wants to take some really rigorous courses in his senior year. And then in addition to that, he is thinking he'd like to take Portuguese when he gets to college. And so he can't really do that until college. So unlike other students where they might be wanting to continue in the same language, he's thinking about changing. But I wanted to share this all with you to let you know that it is never easy, and I can give great advice, but at the end of the day, you have to make the choice that's right for you. And that's what I've said to my son, because I can think it's a really great idea for him to do French 5, but I don't have to take the class, and I don't have to take the other classes he's taking. And so it really ultimately has to be his decision. But lest you think that we have all the answers and we know how to do everything and everything just falls into line, we are right there with you. Okay, so today we're going to digress from my personal life and situation and share. We're going to be talking more about regular decision results. We're also going to be talking about demonstrated interest in times of COVID. A little bit trickier. But before we get to all of that, we wanted to talk about parent financing options. And here to discuss that with us is my colleague, Jean Mahan, who is a former financial aid officer at both Tufts and Quinsigamond Community College, my favorite college to name. Hi, Jean.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. And thanks for joining us today.
Sure.
I wanted to jump right in and talk a little about, so there's a lot of different ways in which parents can finance their children's college education. So tell us a little bit about that. And the very first one is maybe the hardest if your child is a little bit older, but nonetheless, it's a good one to mention.
Right. So, full disclosure, though, I'm a French major. I was a French major. I
No,
did
see,
it.
there you go.
I did it purely so I could study in France. That was my only motivation for doing it, although I did love
Good
it.
motivation.
It is. So, yeah, let's talk about savings first. So, some families have used programs like 529 savings plans or 529 prepaid plans, and they've been putting money into those maybe just for a short period of time, maybe since their child was born, and they're planning to use those funds to pay for college. Yay, you, that's great.
Yes.
If you haven't done that though, don't panic. There's still time, even if your child's going to school in 6 months. Maybe we have some listeners who have freshmen, sophomores. Start putting away what you can. Look at your budget, see what you can put away, because having something saved is better than having nothing saved. And
Right.
it's not going to hurt you in the financial aid process. I hear that a lot. Well, if I save, they'll reduce my eligibility for financial aid. It might a little bit, but not enough to make it not a good
Worth
thing
it.
to save,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've talked about this so many times on the show and just bears repeating. The financial aid formula is primarily focused on income, not on savings. So
right.
you want to earn a lot more money? Well, that's going to impact you.
Yeah.
You're
I
just
always
going to
tell,
save a bunch? Not.
right. I always tell people if you're really worried, have your boss lay you off, or cut your salary in half. And, people are often surprised because I'll say, if you have $100,000 in all your assets, savings, that's only going to take a hit of about 6,000. That's what they're going to require. And people are shocked by that. They're like, they don't want me to use the whole 100? No.
Right.
So, it's a good thing to save. So try to do that if you can.
Okay. Awesome. So let's assume you've saved what you can, but it's not enough, or you really just didn't save, what's the first place that you would go to when thinking about paying?
First place I would go that I think a lot of families aren't even aware of is tuition payment plans. I totally love these, and I was so excited because a family sent me out an award letter the other day from a school, and the school had actually listed that as a resource instead of including Parent Plus loans. And I was like so excited about that because so many families don't know about it, and it's a great option. With a tuition payment plan, you set up an account with the school, usually with the school. Sometimes it's with an outside vendor that they're using. You pay an account setup fee. The highest one I've ever seen is $100 for a 1 year plan, but typically they're less than 75 for the year. And then you decide how much you're putting on that plan. Maybe you can only afford to put $4,000 on it, and you're doing that over 10 months, and that's $400. You might think, well, that's really not very much, but think about 4,000 times four, because we're talking about 4 years here.
Right,
That's
right,
$16,000 less borrowing, and that's no small change. That's huge.
right.
You can use those with student loans and parent loans. You can be, a three-pronged plan to pay for college using the tuition payment plans. Check them out. If you're ready to make a decision on a school, just go to their website and type in tuition payment plans and see what they offer and what you need to do. Typically, you do need to sign up for those sooner rather than later. So you'll get the longest period of time if you sign up, say, in June, than you will if you sign up in August or September.
Got it. Right. That makes sense. And this is, I know that where my stepson went, we had a payment plan. This is pretty common, right?
Mhm.
Have you ever run into schools that don't offer these? I guess we
There's a
should,
couple that I've seen, but they're so far in the minority that,
right.
the other great thing about these is that they're interest free. So
Mm,
you pay that account setup fee and that's it. Those
right.
monthly payments are interest free. So it's really a great way if you know that maybe you're getting raised, maybe you get a bonus in the second half of the year. It's a great way to plan out. And, I think families, when we're in the midst of raising our kids, we always forget about all their expensive habits, their
Yes.
sports and their appetites and driving the car around and all that stuff. But they're going to go and they're going to take all of that with them. And that's going to free up money. The first time I went grocery shopping after my son left for school, I was shocked by how little my bill was because
Right.
he and his friends weren't eating me out of house and home anymore. So yeah,
Right.
there'll be lots of little expenses that you might say, oh yeah, 100 here, no more sports, no more dance, whatever that might be.
Right. Right. I don't have to worry about those expenses. I can put them towards college. Okay. So the next option does require borrowing. Parent Plus. Talk to us a little about this option.
Sure. So this is one of two different parent options. The Parent Plus loan is a federally backed loan. Um, Usually, most families can get it as long as they have good credit. So no, charge-offs, no late payments consistently. It's not based on your debt to income ratio, and the credit check is pretty basic. Families can borrow the cost of attendance minus any financial aid their student has received. So that would be scholarships, grants, loans, and work study. And then that's the amount that you can borrow. The good news about those loans is that there's a fixed interest rate. This year, it's really low. It's only 5.3%. Um, and you can defer payments while your student is in school. So even if they go on to graduate school, you could still defer those payments. What isn't so fun about this loan is that it has a pretty high origination fee, so 4.2%, which kind of stops people in their tracks a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think because the underwriting is so flexible, the origination fee has to be a little higher. But you think $20,000 you borrow, $800 is coming right off the top, and that's a lot. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of pros to the loan too, so it shouldn't be completely disregarded out of hand. So it's another option. When I'm working with families, I'll often encourage them to try to pay interest while they're going along with a Parent Plus loan, just because it can get expensive. The interest isn't compounded, but it is added to the principal at repayment.
Mm-hmm.
So, if the loan has been sitting around accruing interest for 4.5 years, depending on the rate, it could add another $5,000 to the loan. So if you
Right.
have the ability to pay, whenever you can, that's going to help in the long run with, how much you end up repaying.
So I want to clarify two things. The first is you mentioned that you could take out Parent Plus loans to cover everything minus your financial aid, and you said loans as part of that financial aid. Is this a different loan then, than loans that might be included in your financial aid
Right,
package? Okay, that's
right.
interesting.
So student loans come from the
That's
government
right.
too,
Okay,
and direct loans, 5,500 is the amount that a freshman is eligible for, and it increases by about $1,000 per year.
right.
So, but a lot of families are surprised by that low amount, and then find that they want to borrow more to cover the balance.
Right, so the idea is, ideally, it's the student loans that you max those out
Mm,
first, and only then would you add a Parent Plus. And my
absolutely.
second quick question would be, is there a limit, like there is with the student loans, is there a limit to how much you can borrow as part of a Parent Plus loan?
No, just up to the cost of attendance minus any
Got it,
financial aid. Yep.
got it. Okay, so then the next option, private loans, or,
Mm,
yeah, private loans. So
okay.
talk to us a little about those.
Yeah. So private education loans, lots of different companies offer those, credit card companies, banks, financial services companies. And sometimes they're borrowed by the student with a parent cosigner. Some lenders refer to them as family loans. So both the parent and the student are on the loan. And then there are some loans that are just for parents. So, your interest rate could be fixed, it could be variable, you choose that, but it is going to be based on your credit history. So if you've got great credit, chances are you might get a good rate.
Mm-hmm.
If your credit is a little, you might not get as good a rate. If students are the borrowers, even though parents might have excellent credit, I don't see that students typically get the best rates that are advertised. And families are often surprised by that, but I'll, remind them you've got a 17 or 18-year-old with no credit history and no means to repay this loan. They're the primary borrower, and that's usually the reason why the interest rate is on the higher side.
Got it.
I think families oftentimes think too, well, I want the burden of paying for college to be on my child, and I don't want to be involved. But when you're co-signing a loan, you're very much involved and you are on the hook for it. So
Right.
you have to be careful about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the big challenges is that if your student is going to go the traditional college path, colleges expect parents to be part of the process. Whether you as a parent want to be part of it or you don't, the colleges require it. And so that it's challenging.
It is challenging. I know.
All
I
right, well,
know.
we can't have that our not
Yeah,
argument but discussion today.
that's
So
another
let's
day.
that's another day. Exactly. Let's talk about the next option because we have two more to talk about here.
Some families like to use home equity because they can oftentimes get a lower interest rate on the loan. But things that you need to consider are things like, if you borrow too much against your home, let's say you get transferred and you're moving to Silicon Valley, where
Yeah.
real estate is extremely expensive. So if you've got too much out of the home that you're currently residing in, you know, will you have enough money to put a down payment on a home in your new location? Remember that when you have a home equity loan, you go into immediate repayment on that. So
Mhm.
that might preclude you being able to do a tuition payment plan. Um, so I think those are kind of the biggest drawbacks. Just whether you want to do that. And if you, and I think I can't stress enough that we're not just talking, if you have more than one child, chances are we're not talking about one child's tuition.
Right.
You've got 3 or 4 kids, how much can you reasonably, take out either on a parent loan, co-sign on a private loan, or do on a home equity loan?
Right.
Some people will say to me, our plan is we live in a high rent district in a great school system. And as soon as the youngest kid is out of high school, we are gone from here. We're downsizing. We don't need to pay these taxes. Okay, that's a plan. You're going to sell your house and you're going to use that to repay your loans. But do have a plan for whatever loans you take out.
Right. Right. I think that's really good advice. Okay, final option.
Mhm.
IRA,
Yeah.
specifically a Roth
A
IRA.
Roth IRA, right?
Yes.
So love this option. And many families have Roths and don't realize that they can use these for education. The reason they can do that is because the contributions that you make are post-tax. So when you contribute to those accounts, the money's already been taxed and
Hmm.
it's growing and growing and growing. And if you're under 59 and a half, you can withdraw those contributions at any time for any reason without tax or penalty. What you want to try to do is leave those earnings in the account until you're 59 and a half, because if you withdraw those early, then you may incur a penalty, but you will certainly pay tax on those. These accounts work great for parents that are a little bit on the older side when their kids go to school. And they may say, you know what, we're going to use that whole thing for college. Um, but, it's really up to each parent. And I would suggest that maybe you work with a retirement specialist just to make sure all your other retirement vehicles are on track and that you won't have to rely on your kids for support because you've
Right.
liquidated one of these accounts. So it's a really great option. And some families use these when they're saving in conjunction with a 529 plan and a regular savings account so that they have, a little bit more flexibility. With a 529 plan, you can't pay for plane tickets, but you can with a Roth, with the funds from a
Right.
Roth
That's
IRA.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. Great advice. Jean, thank you so much for
Oh,
being with
you're
us today.
welcome.
I really
Great to
appreciate
see
it.
you.
You too. All right, we are going to take a really quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about demonstrated interest during COVID. So don't go away.